If I only had a brain. Not yet, Ted. Okay, hi everybody. Oh. Hello and welcome to today's live stream on the Griswold Grimm YouTube channel, part of the Virtually Not Alone network. You're live on the planet, same time as me, so we're virtually not alone right now as we share attention. Even if you're watching the replay, we're still sharing attention, like focused. There's a we involved because we're virtually not alone. Today's episode, propaganda and the means of production. So, okay, so there's this thing. It's called mind control. We use language to do it. It's like there's this story of an old fish. He swims by these two young fish, and he goes, "How's the water, boys?" In this situation, similarly, how's the mind control, folks? So you get savings throws against it here. You're aiming for over 10. You get to pick a die. You pick survival, social, wisdom, or heart. Choose it. Hold it in your heart. Here we go. Choose! And I roll the survivalist with a nat 20 today. Can you see it? I don't know. It's beautiful. You did great. Socialists, only a 5. Sophists, lovers of wisdom, with a hot 19. You're doing great. Hearts, folks, only a 3. So you're gonna take full damage, but you know the mind control you get from the Griswold Grimm YouTube streams is very. We want what's best for you. So remember, everybody, there is no agency. It's just us doing this together the best we can. This is propaganda and the means of production. Let me say hello to the people in the house. Chris Pacow and Charlie Brown. Steven, good morning. Good morning. All right, into the Andromedus Jaculel references today. Well, congrats on your survival choice. I'll be touching on some of his stuff. I don't know. There's this competing propaganda thing between like the guy who wears tights that Saint Sartori shows around and this Jaculel guy. I haven't fought it out. I wouldn't pick socialist, Dumir. I wouldn't pick socialist. I got the DVR on, so you can bounce back and see the savings throws. Cause here comes the mind control, folks. Get ready.
One more thing I forgot to mention after I turn this off. Think about the time you spend in prayer and think about the time you spend seeking God. And think about the time you spend in prayer, and think about the time you spend seeking God, and then like how much time you actually spend actually thinking about God. Think about that once, and then compare it to the time you actually spend looking at your phone. It's like we're holding the phone, it's like we're bowing and praying to the phone, correct? I mean, that's what it looks like. We're constantly seeking it. So in this way, our phone, and Vanderklay does mention this, it's like a god. It's a god.
Have you subscribed yet? Have you? Congratulations for making it this far into the video. Your view will be noted by the Algorhythmic Deities. Speaking of Algorhythmic Deities, have you subscribed yet? Have you liked the video? That seems to help somebody. Oh, and you can contribute to the channel through PayPal, link below. And do that every...
get a little twisted by it, but for the most part, it's fun. Would I rather you turn away from your screens, make some friends, learn to pray, grow a garden, start a family, build a vocation, love God with your heart, soul, mind, strength, and your neighbor as yourself? Yes. If someone comes up to me and says, I used to watch on YouTube, and then I put all that stuff away, and here's my garden, here's my family, here's my children, here's my church. Thank you. You were there when I needed you. And now I've moved on to other things. Amen. But if you still want to play along, if the content from this little corner of the internet helps you do this, and if you need something to, if you're like me and you need something to listen to while you garden, in knowing more people helps you pray. And maybe, you'll find someone on Bridges of Matchmaking, and you'll start a family, and you'll build a vocation, and you're coding all day, and it's good to have something to listen to. And somehow I am helpful for you to love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and your neighbor as yourself. Well, that's just glory. That's just delightful. That's just beautiful. Making stuff up as we go along and paying the price, but that's the human story.
Speaking of the human story, I personally think that the meaning crisis is a lack of a species level telos right now.
Yes, it's good. It's a good way to think about it.
And I don't understand, other than like Ghislaine and her Terramar. We're not exploring the oceans or anything. Space is completely fake. We can't get past the Van Allen belt. I don't know why they pretend we can. But there's the paths I see for humanity that are viable are like Amish or crawl into the internet and disappear forever.
Yeah.
And unless Christ comes back, there's like nowhere for a person to try to push.
Well, so, and what you just said, fair enough, but take it back 1,000 years. Most of our pushing conceptualization was basically what? Our tribe would inherit other lands, or, what games were we playing then?
The networks have to assume that everybody watching has no memory and no education and no attention span, because the bandwidth requirements demand that. And now that's all gone. That's not an insult, by the way.
Sure.
It was, in some sense, you're documenting something that's so revolutionary that even the people using it don't know how revolutionary it is. So let me ask you about this. So now all of a sudden, the network, everyone's a TV station. Okay, so now...
Hail Hydra.
Ta-da! Okay, so that was like my clip presentation that supposedly fulfills the requirements of the thumbnail and the propaganda and the means of production title. I hope you enjoyed it and it didn't hurt your brain. Hey, Saint Sartori, good to see you. Good to see you. I did want to go into some of this stuff. I came across go away. This was from somebody got burned to pull out his summary from 13 and drop it as a standalone, and so I was watching that, and I like this part a whole lot.
If you were just see the vast swaths of damage after the war, you know, what happens after some traumatic event hits a person? Well, one thing they often do is they just keep moving on. They try not to think about it. They try not to bring it up. You know, you'll often hear people say things like, do we have to go over that again? Do we have to talk about that stuff again? It's so depressing. But that's part of the damage, not being able to face it. In America, there was a pretense of normality. And this is when, you know, television comes up and the new suburbs come into existence. And you have the super highways. The automobile takes over life. And there was a certain idea of the family, which, by the way, is the normality most people refer back to today that they want, which I think is highly suspicious because 50s normality wasn't normal. Camille Paglia makes a great point of saying that what was normal for most people in most countries was the larger extended family. And the nuclear family from the 50s, mom, dad, and 2.3 kids, or whatever it was, that was abnormal. And I'm living here in Tbilisi, Georgia, and...
Okay. So the reason I like that so hard is because, I mean, it's great for us that Set was named Set, right? But the Egyptians identified the cultural patterns, okay? And they personified it in the stories of Osiris and Set and Isis and Horus, right? And so what happened was, is you took the extended families and you fucking nuked them, and you nuked the extended families and then replaced it with Set, the television set, which instead of your families telling you about what life was like, because firsthand accounts, the Set told everybody what life was like. And that is how they killed Osiris. And Osiris is the good but blind fatherly rule that holds everything together. And then Isis goes nuts in chaos. People start chopping off their penises. It's horrible. And that's Isis crying out for the phallus of Osiris to come make the baby Horus. And so that's kind of where we are now with the propaganda we do. He didn't lean... I like his little series. He doesn't like point out that Dylan is obviously government, right? He completely glosses over the existence of Laurel Canyon. So like the music part, I was, but but that point, that point got made it all and got fed into. Oh, hi, Magic. Good to see you. The savings throws are way at the front, and then the mind control is really thick and heavy, and now you're here. So, but so what happened? We got nuked, and I got this fantasy. I think I call it like a bastard fantasy of like crawling up the bloodlines. Like I watched Game of Thrones, and like the sexiest guy was Tywin Lannister because they held the family together. They were like, oh, but you know. Oh, here, this guy. Somebody replied with a link to this video in a completely unrelated Twitter thread, but I was curious and I checked it out, and I liked a little bit of what I heard. So let's check it out together. Now that we're virtually not alone. Remember, everybody, that's the new Lobster Monkey logo. There is no agency. We want what's best for you. And keep learning and live. Like it came to me as the opposite, but the way to say it right is keep learning and live. This is Propaganda and the Means of Production, a Griswold Grimm YouTube live stream. Oh yeah.
Also why the evidence personal is, and the easier it becomes to show people and convince them, look, this is authenticated stuff. Here's the factual data, here's the physical book, read from that book, and then have your discussions. What do you think about this? What do you think they meant by this? What do you think has happened? Have they fulfilled this part of an agenda? And most people will say, yeah, they have. Well, here's how they did it. The evidence is all there, but knowledge, remember, is scattered. That's also why, since the 70s and so on, televisions were put up in places where people used to communicate to each other, bars and restaurants, the pubs of Europe. Everyone talked and discussed everything. The televisions were all put in for a reason. And now everyone's mesmerized, and you can hear sports or loud music. You can't communicate anymore. That was government promoted, because the government licensed the big chains of taverns and pubs all throughout Europe. And so what you've got, really, is deliberate attempts. Nothing happens for no reason. Why? The customers weren't demanded. They were bored in bars as they discussed topics. People would just move around the pub talking and listening to the conversations, and they'd join in the one that you liked. Why was it so important to destroy communication? It's because it's a main propaganda tool that stops communication between people, even in a room. Have you noticed, too, they don't even discuss the topics once the news is read to them, to each other. They've both been downloaded with the opinions. You don't have to ask what their opinion is. It's going to be the same one as you've been downloaded with, left by the expert. So we've got to get back to communications and communicating with each other and finding the evidence. Knowledge is scattered.
Oh, so like, you know, I like what this guy is saying. Apparently his name is Alan Watt, which is going to make him hard to find since Alan Watts is so much more popular. And also something that never seems to get discussed in Estuary. Huh? No Buddhism, no Hinduism. This Estuary is just a cover for like Christianity light. You guys don't discuss real things. Like, can I bring Ra to Estuary, Van Donk? Because let's do that, huh? Huh? Oh, sorry. Magic. Learning and living and living and learning. Learning to live is a big fucking one. Oh, it's you know, I was thinking about it in the, no, not I was thinking about it in the shed earlier, you know, and it's like, you pretty much have to go through the stages of grief. It's a Kubler-Ross model, if anybody wants to do their due diligence. But, like, the stages of grief ends with, like, it starts with something you didn't want happens, and, like, ends with acceptance. And I was thinking, you know, it's just kind of just like the stages of acceptance. It doesn't necessarily have to be grief. It kind of just applies as a blanket thing. Like, first you're going to get mad about it, then you're going to try and bargain about it. But eventually, after you go through some shit, you accept it as your reality, and then you start with your new forward plannings. And that's kind of learning to live. So why don't you go familiarize yourself with the model and see how it's applying to something you're learning to accept in your life today, like your overwhelming desire to join the shadow cabal of production executives that make this show and my life possible via the links in the description. This has been the Propaganda and Means of Production Virtually Not Alone live stream. And unless you guys want to hang out and talk about something, I'm probably going to wrap it up now. I mean, I know it's only 20 minutes, and I tried to go 40 one day, maybe an hour, but, you know, I'm standing over here, there's a topic board. No. But it does what? It does apply. Yes, it's just... Here, I'll let this guy talk some more, and maybe I'll get inspired. I tried to, you know, I just tried to create this space where we can be together, like, hey, we at least have that in common. I at least have the Grim Grizz live stream in common with 8 people. So, fifth, okay. So, thank you, everybody.
Knowledge is power, so it's scattered all over the place. and thousands of books. But when you can start these reading classes up and get other reading classes communicating with you even through the internet, you can start putting the data, the factual data together, and so that you can present it to the public and bring in more and more members. Only knowledge and the will to use this knowledge is going to thwart the plans that have openly been made for us and declared from the elites at the top.
Oh, hey, I'm still here. Hey, whoa. Oh, there's the topic board. It doesn't, the looking glass is still, LARPing grown. This one, in the middle there. Hey, come here. Show them, monkey. Show them the one. Boy, boy, boy. This one here. All right. Oh, so like, that's the LARPing grown is a LARP that I want to move into very slowly and cautiously. But if you want to jump ahead, homework for that sort of thing would be like, should I know whether or not there's an election for the local sheriff this November? I should know that. Should I know that? I'm going to wrestle with that. That's the homework. Wrestling with that notion. Here. Joseph! No, this other one. Hold on, guys. This is just a slight fumble. This lady showed up in the Discord. Check her out.
Everybody's getting the signs and synchronicities, okay? Everybody is getting the signs and synchronicities. God doesn't leave anyone behind. But if you're going to ignore what you're being told, if you're going to disrespect the advice and help that you're being given, if you're not going to be grateful for all of the gifts that have been put before you to utilize tools in this realm to make you a better person, then it's going to be a bumpy ride. You're not going to have fun. You're going to be fighting against it the whole time. You're going to be resistant, and it's not going to end well.
Realization to be in the best possible relationship, that the sort of meta-optimal grip to what is most real. I totally agree. I totally think that's one of the things, I said this earlier, one of our meta desires is whatever is satisfying our desires is also real. I do this with my students. I'll say, you know, because romantic relationships are sort of take the role of God and religion and history and culture for us right now. We put everything on them, and that's why they break. But right,
strong words. Yeah, got it.
but I'll say to them, okay, how many of you are in really satisfying romantic relationships? Put up your hands. And I'll say, okay, I'm now only talking to these people. Of those people, how many of you would want to know your partner's cheating on you, even if it means the destruction of the relationship? 95% of them put up their hands.
How many of you would want to know if Grim Grizz was running clips of you? Apparently, Jelena would. Hey, good to see you. Glad you came by. Oh shit, next clip. How is everybody? You know, sometimes I can just try and remain, you know, I'm grabbing a link and trying to juggle your attention, and it's very, you know, good times for everybody.
Build cool shit.
Yeah.
Let's get excited.
Which is the spirit of collaboration, which is deeply anti-Moloch, right? That's it's not using competition. It's like, you know, Moloch hates collaboration and coordination and people working together. And that's, you know, again, like the internet started out as that, and it could have been that, but because of the way it was sort of structured, in terms of, you know, very lofty ideal, they wanted everything to be open source and also free, but they needed to find a way to pay the bills anyway, because they were still building this on top of our old economics system, and so the way they did that was through third-party advertisement. But that meant that things were very decoupled. You know, you've got this third-party interest, which means that you're then like, people are having to optimize for that, and that is the actual consumer is actually the product, not the person you're making the thing for. You're in
lobes and the cognitive divisions and the central divisions deal with emotions. So again, it's kind of a pictorial topographic processing in the brain. Now, where these two structures are different, okay, is a clue to what they're doing, because what they're essentially doing is they're automatizing behavior. So what they're doing is basically making behaviors, thoughts, and emotions automatic. So this is really important because most of our behavior is automatized, and it's basically, the skills and procedures are basically something we don't want to think about, we just want to do it. And the lobes and the cognitive divisions and the central divisions deal with emotions. So again,
my little thing.
Whoops.
And I will pour out on the house of David and the inhabitants of Jerusalem a spirit of grace and supplication. They will look on me, the one they have pierced, and they will mourn for him.
I had this thing, man. Like, so I went on this dude's podcast, right? And like afterward, he like is totally seducing this fellow, and he's like, join my cult. By the way, there's two messiahs, and Jesus was the bad one. And I'm like, what, dude? And then he goes, I'm very not happy with that man right now. Sorry, my face was on the clip. I didn't know any better,
And everyone's connected to larger families here, which interestingly enough, and I don't think this is an accident, kind of lessens the amount of insanity, public insanity you see. But I've talked about this in other places. But also in this environment was the Cold War. And the extreme suspicion of the communists and the democracies.
Yes. That's all. Okay, that's good. All right, so we're here. I covered things. I got to do this again tomorrow, so I don't want to cover too much. But we've all been together for a little while. And, that invigorates us all, right? Because, hey, we're not alone. Virtually. I'll see you tomorrow. Remember, everybody. He does it. This is what he does. No. Stop it. No, quit. Just click the... no. La